We share a similar quality to every other living creature, plant, and being in this world. We are mortal, finite, and one day we will die, and our existence will end. Only our memory will remain after our death, and the strength of that memory will determine how others will remember us. Time will render us non-existent, as newer generations live and make new memories without us. This reality can scare people into repressing that truth, hiding from it, distracting themselves from the horrors of death, as it renders us helpless to its touch. In light of this fear, people avoid the truth to hide from the inevitable dread of dying. Their insignificance can be too much to bear, as it conflicts with their enhanced sense of self. Years can slip by in a distracted, mindless, entertainment-fueled days, and they never fully live their lives. The lack of lived experience and missed opportunity is often coupled with severe bitterness, life crises, or resentment towards those who have lived. Erich Fromm said in Man for Himself, "One form of this anxiety is the fear of death, not the normal fear of having to die which every human being experiences in the contemplation of death, but a horror of dying by which people can be possessed constantly. This irrational fear of death results from the failure of having lived. It is the expression of our guilty conscience for having wasted our life and missed the chance of productive use of our capabilities. To die is poignantly bitter, but the idea of having to die without having lived is unbearable." Some people may take a different approach, and in light of their mortality, become selfish or narcissistic, as they believe that masturbating their pleasures or desires will bring them the fulfillment and meaning they seek. They bury themselves in materialism and hedonism, as they pleasure themselves into a hole of diminishing return. Through their selfish pursuits, they only attach external objects of validation to themselves and never live a life of meaning. Because, once those externals get removed, they revert back to fragile, naked bodies, void of any substance. Their existence is focused on taking from others, in a shameful attempt to better themselves while never giving back. The more they get, the more they cover up their insecurity and fear. Mark Manson said, "While most people whittle their days chasing another buck, or a little bit more fame and attention, or a little bit more assurance that they are right or loved, death confronts all of us with a far more painful and important question. What is your legacy? How will the world be different and better when you're gone? What mark will you have made? What influence will you have caused? They say a butterfly flapping its wings in Africa can cause a hurricane in Florida. Well, what hurricanes will you leave in your wake?" Our mortality forces us to ask ourselves the questions. What will I be remembered for when I die? What will I leave behind that benefits the world? What impact will I have had? When we ask ourselves these fundamental questions, and we care about the footprint we leave, death becomes a motivator to do the best with what we have and live a fulfilling life worthy of existence itself. We see our life as meaningful and valuable as we concern ourselves with the quality of life we've lived and the influence we've had. Marcus Aurelius in the Emperor's Handbook says that your days are numbered. Use them to throw open the windows of your soul to the sun. If you do not, the sun will soon set, and you with it. Our death, instead of foreboding our inevitable fate, becomes our motivation to live a good life. While the majority of members of a society are doomed in the shameful, selfish, and narcissistic cycle they've created, there are people concerned with creating a life of meaningful pursuits and connections. They live for the better of themselves and everyone. They build and create to give to those around them. They alleviate people's suffering by helping and giving instead of having, getting, and taking. They open their hearts to the world and risk their vulnerability for the joys of existence. And, in their love for life, they enable others to do the same. They give strength to those who look on, and their positivity becomes infectious as others learn to live like them. People remember those who inspire them. Through their openness, positivity, and passion for life, they gave light to those who need it. We all have these people who inspired us, who taught us that it's okay to let our light shine, who we looked to when we needed strength. They gave something to us, even if they didn't know it. They lived life on their terms, and they experienced it in all its forms. They lived through their passions and showed everyone else that it's okay to do the same. Magnus Flight said, "Only the passionate were immortal, it seemed. If you fought, screwed, screamed, laughed, or otherwise experienced life intensely, for better or worse, you left a record. Those who lived a quiet, well-behaved, well-tempered life, gone without a trace." That passion that those people lived enabled them to accomplish their goals. But those accomplishments are secondary to the strength it gave others, to the way it made others feel, to the positive influence it had. Pericles said, "What you leave behind is not what is engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others." Those people did what they did because they loved it, and they gave without knowing. Their memory will outlast them because it's etched into the minds of others, and those people will live their life in likeness and inspire more. People's legacy lives on in the day-to-day actions, the thoughts, the decisions, the foundational fabric of the ones they touched. Every day a legacy is made, and every day we have the opportunity to change our lives for the better. It's not always about the physical objects you give people, but the feelings and memories you leave. The secret to a legacy is to give and not expect anything in return. Lin-Manuel Miranda, in the play Hamilton the Revolution, wrote, "Legacy. What is legacy? It's planting seeds in a garden you never get to see." A similar statement is made by Henry Adams. A teacher affects eternity and can never tell where their influence stops. We all remember the feeling when someone gave to us and we had no way of repaying them. We all remember a person who gave to the community with no ask in return. They did it because they, too, were in our position at one stage. They did it because they saw we needed guidance. They did it through a labour of love. They did it and knew they would never get repaid. Never be concerned with what you receive in return for your efforts. Don't let the selfish, narcissistic nature of society determine how much of yourself you give to the world. Don't give and expect praise and fame in return. Don't offer anything with the intention of taking from others. Live your passion and offer the world your love and kindness for free. Through your life, you will inspire those who can never repay you. Give and be generous in all aspects of life, and you will inspire others to do the same. You may never see the fruits of your labour, and that is precisely why you should do it. Benjamin Disraeli said, "The legacy of heroes is the memory of a great name and the inheritance of a great example." The authentic hero doesn't think about the fame they receive. They live their passion because that's what they do. In turn, they give their passion to the world, and as their influence spreads, it becomes bigger than them. They devote their life to something so that others can do the same. Warren Buffett famously quoted, Someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago. Kalu Indakwi Kalu, similarly quoted, "The things you do for yourself are gone when you are gone, but the things you do for others remain as your legacy. Be the person who inspires others and gives without wanting anything in return. In doing that, you will find meaning, and you will find that the more you give, the more you open your soul to the sun. Your legacy will not be merely material possessions, but the memories and feelings you gave others. You may never see the seeds you plant grow into trees, but you'll know that you did your part to make the world a slightly better place, and that is enough to say you've lived a good life." To finish, Gandhi said, "The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others."